having that exit ticket aligned with the standard and the learning intention for the day makes all of it clear. And then that teacher can look at it and say, uh-oh, my class is off track. I need to repeat that lesson or teach it a different way. Or, wow, these kids are really getting it. I can accelerate tomorrow's lesson, not to waste time. And then it's really helpful when assessments are created prior to teaching the unit, because then that learning is in that linear fashion and everything can be aligned. And what's on the assessment should not be a surprise in teacher clarity. If learning and teaching is clear, then that assessment is not a surprise to students. They've been practicing that along the way. So alignment equals clarity. So if the learning target is I can compare themes across two texts using evidence, the success criteria would look like I can identify themes, cite evidence from both texts, and explain similarities and differences. You can see how a student could, if that was the learning target, aligned with the standard, the grade level standard, that they could be evaluating themselves along the way. Am I using both texts? Am I citing text evidence? Am I explaining the similarities and the differences? And then the task that could happen for practicing in that unit is that the students would annotate two short texts, discuss themes with partners using sentence frames, and write a comparative response citing evidence. So you can see how that alignment and that learning target, which is a reflection of the standard, just cuts through everything the teacher is doing. So again, teacher clarity is a shared understanding of what is being learned, why it matters, and how success will be recognized from the state standard all the way to the final assessment. And that's what we're working on in the West Valley School District. We're going to continue next year. Really, we're kind of on the back end of that through line, talking about feedback, discussion prompts, and of course the assessment, crafting assessments that align with the target. That's it.
Thank you. Go back to our seats. Stacy, thank you. And I know when I was reading through this, it's been fun when I've gone through several times with you and Dr. Finch into classrooms to see it on the wall, to see the kids interacting with the learning target. And so I've gotten used to just going, okay, I'm walking in the room and I'm looking around the room for the learning target, and almost in all cases it's there. So,
yes, yeah. We've made a lot of growth.
Yeah.
You know, it's really fun to ask kindergartners what you're learning. They used to tell us stuff or math or reading, and now they're getting much better at, because the teachers are using it and they're repeating it, telling us what they're learning, telling us the standards. So that's exciting.
Great.
Thank you.
I hear, I'm looking back over the last few months, and there's been other programs within the district that have presented and they've talked about teacher clarity, and so I can recognize like the intentionality you have in implementing that all over. I was just wondering, for them being intentional with the clarity, is that something that they're doing in their planning, or is that something more of an art that comes through practice type thing?
Well, it should come through planning. When teachers are planning for lessons, absolutely. They should be intentional about their questions and their tasks and their activities, and really looking at it in a different way. If you were asking about like teacher prep,
does this add more to their prep?
Yes, and it condenses it, right? If you look at a standard and you're not clear on what you should teach, or you're looking at it, let's say you're not even looking at a standard, you open up to Unit 3 in your ELA curriculum, there could be 14 different standards that are taught, objectives that are taught in that unit. The teacher, that's why teachers aren't robots. That's why in-person learning is so valuable, because the teacher can decide which of those standards are important for their group of students and what parts of that unit they're going to teach based on that standard. We can't teach it all, we shouldn't teach it all. And not all the kids need it all. Some kids do a pre-test and they've already mastered most of it. Why are you wasting your time? So yes, it is a little more, it's more intentional thinking. You have to really do some preparing, but the success that teachers, can have on the back end is certainly worth it, and makes it just more, it like kind of blocks out all the periphery.
Yeah.
It's not needed.
Well, I think the feedback from just the teachers who have presented is that it's been awesome.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's making a
great job.
difference. All right, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. Okay, just to give a little clarity to where we're going here is the next item on the agenda is public comment. I'll open a public comment session for non-discussion items that aren't on the agenda. And if you have an agenda, the discussion item tonight, again, continuing from last meeting, is on instructional materials. And that'll be a separate public comment section. So if there's anybody right now that wants to speak, and I know we have signups, but I think what I'm going to do is just ask you if you want to speak on a non-discussion item, make your way over to the podium so we can hear you, and then just one at a time you can speak. So is there anybody that wants to speak on a non-discussion or non-discussion agenda? And state your name.
My name is Rick Beck. I am the German instructor at West Valley High School. And when I was hired to the .6 position in the fall of 2025, Ben McMurray and I spoke about how I would attempt to return the West Valley German program to its former status. The overall plan was to grow the program to a .8 position in the 2026-27 school year and have a full-time position in the 27-28 school year. At that point, the plan was to open the position for hire, with the thought in mind to hire someone who could ensure stability for the program into the distant future. In 2018, West Valley graduate Maya Robert, who you met last board meeting and who is also here tonight, is a young, vibrant, prospective teacher with teaching experience not only in Seattle, but also in Germany, who has the enthusiastic endorsement of many German teachers around the state and also my own endorsement. She will be completing her student teaching here in January and is prepared to apply for the position when it opens. With the registration numbers came in this spring, it appeared that we were well on course to fulfilling this plan. An intricate part of this revitalization plan is the re-implementation of German 100 class at the junior high school. Without junior high German, teaching 2 sections of German 200 at the high school cannot be reached. This is vital to the recovery project. It is the lack of German at the junior high, thus destroying parity in the world language offerings in this district, going to be an anomaly this year only, or is it now going to be the norm? What is the plan for the future? Will students be allowed to register for German 100 at the junior high in the 27-28 school year? One has to ask, is there a plan? I did appreciate the district's patience this past year, allowing me to teach an average of 16 students per period. I thought the district wanted me to increase enrollment. It seems that really wasn't the case, but we did it anyway. We were on the right track to reestablishing a vibrant program until we were derailed by this extremely ill-advised and incomprehensible decision. Speaking to enrollment numbers, with the junior high enrollees, there were 84 students. Over 4 periods, a .8 position, that's 21 students per period. Without the junior high enrollees, there are 63 students. Over the 3 periods at the .6 position the district is willing to fund, that's 21 students per period. Of the 84 enrollees, 56 are first-year students. This bodes well for the following year to be serving over 100 students, and it seems that the number of students served is very important to the district. This would justify a full-time position. We've had a partner school relationship with schools in Güstrow, Germany since 1999. After our school district posted only a .6 position for the German last year, that school was planning on ending their participation in that program. Now, we are hosting 13 students and 2 teachers from September 21st to October 13th this fall. Our plan is to take West Valley students on a reciprocal visit in June of 2027, taking Maya Robert along to show her the ropes. 2 weeks ago, I met with Ron Radke, the principal of that school, to solidify the exchange. At this point, we can only conclude that the German program does not have the support needed of the district office, and we ask that the school board consider supporting the funding of German 100 at the junior high level. This would be truly what is best for West Valley kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Jennifer Nelson, World Language Department Chairperson here at the high school, and I also teach Spanish. I've taught only at the high school my entire career, and that is 26 years. And I'm here this evening to echo Rebecca's message, asking the district to maintain world language choices for our students beginning in 8th grade. As you may remember, our department has advocated for our program before both the district and the board over the last 2 years. During that time, the district has repeatedly stated its support for maintaining at least 2 language choices in a district our size. With this present decision, however, I struggle to understand how the district's actions align with that stated support. Our department and building principals have collaborated to create a realistic and feasible plan that would allow students to access both Spanish and German beginning in 8th grade. Yet now we're being told that adding 1 class, a 0.2 FTE position, is not feasible, despite having 21 students already pre-registered for the course. If the district values maintaining language choices for students, I respectfully ask how this decision advances that goal. Offering German in 8th grade plays an important role in helping students meet the 2-year Washington State World Language graduation requirement. In my years of teaching at the high school, we have consistently worked to preserve student choice for our program for students grades 8 through 12. For many students and families in our West Valley community who already speak Spanish, the opportunity to study a different language provides valuable cultural perspectives and broadens their educational experience. Tonight, I ask the board to consider whether this decision reflects the district's stated commitment to supporting world language opportunities for our students. Genuine support requires more than acknowledging the value of a program. It requires making decisions that allow that program to continue serving our students. I respectfully urge the district to honor its commitment to student choice by maintaining both Spanish and German as options in the 8th grade. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for your comments. Is there any other person that wants to speak on non-discussion items?
I believe you guys may have heard from me the last time we met. Just to remind you guys, I know some of you guys may not have been here. My name is Tanner McKinney. I'm a class of 2017 West Valley graduate and a proud Ram. And part of what made my time at West Valley High School so memorable was my participation in our excellent German program that we have had for decades at this point. Herbeck, when he came back to recover what is left of the German program and return it to its former glory, was given a plan that Herbeck laid it out for all of us to understand how we were going to create that German program and build it back to what it was formerly at. I mentioned it last time I was here, but I'll mention it again because it's an immaculate, amazing achievement that very few schools have. When you walked in the door, I hope that you guys took my advice that I gave you last time we were here, and you looked at the wall on the side of the office, and you saw the plaque that said School of Excellence for the German-American Partnership Program. There are very few schools in this country that have that plaque. West Valley has historically been one of the best German programs in the state, let alone the entire country. I ask the board tonight to continue that. Herbeck built this program. He's been teaching German in West Valley since the 90s. And I don't understand why we wouldn't choose the man that built the best program in this part of the country to help bring that program back to its former excellence and hand it off to a great teacher that spent 5 years in Herbeck's program just the way that I did, and move forward with that program. I mentioned earlier that I was a West Valley grad. I'm currently a substitute teacher in the district, and I see a lot of students every day. I went through Central Washington University. I got my bachelor's of arts in history and social studies teaching, and I'm looking to get a job here myself because of my dedication to the district. I see students that want German. When I was subbing at the junior high, I sat in on a presentation that Herbeck gave about the German program, and I saw real interest in German. I asked the board tonight to acknowledge that and to remember the promise that you made and when hiring Herbeck back into the district and continuing with moving German into the junior high setting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else for non-discussion items? Okay, I'm going to close that public comment section. And the next section is a discussion, again, continuing from last time on instructional materials. And since I wasn't here, I was on vacation in Lake Chelan, but I did watch the comments. So I just wrote some thoughts that I want to share with the board. I mean, I'm here with the board. Of course, you'll all listen to them. But continue listening because I'm going to make a proposal at the end that I hope is acceptable to everybody. And so here goes. So I just want to share my thoughts about this seemingly controversy regarding a couple of the books. Like I said, I was on vacation the last meeting. I did watch the recording, and I really do appreciate each person's thoughts, both on the board and in the community that shared. I was moved by several people and thinking quite a bit. To be real transparent about me personally, I've been really struggling with this decision just because of my personal beliefs and thoughts and wanting to represent the community well and the teachers. And I've got a lot of respect for everyone. And I've just been struggling with this. It's been a anxiety thing for me, honestly, because I'm taking this seriously. I'm not just blowing it off. So I'm just being transparent with my feelings. I put in many hours reading, researching options, the right or wrong of some of the content in the books. I truly appreciate some of the conversations I've had with others on this issue. Agree or disagree, the conversations have been respectful and friendly. And that's what I appreciate is when we disagree, we can still be civil. I think we need a lot more of that in this country. So I appreciate that. I was able to meet with Jeremiah or Mr. Crandall and thoroughly enjoyed our conversation as we sought out understanding each other's perspective. I do understand that teachers have a tough job. They truly desire to engage students in the classroom and sharpen their critical thinking skills. I have a wife that she's retired now, but she taught at Stanton Academy for over 20 years, and I hear a lot of stories from her, and I have a lot of respect for teachers. So just my feelings about this, I'm opposed personally to the heavy profanity and sexual situations in the book. It doesn't seem appropriate for that age. Some of the defense, not Mr. Crandall's defense at all, but some of the defense I've heard is that students see these things and say these things all the time, I think sort of reflects poorly on our adult responsibility to shape young minds, to civilize speech and not uncivilized speech. My opinion on that is simply as a community member who longs for civility in our everyday speech. As a Christian, I'm hurt by the use of Jesus Christ's name multiple times as a flippant curse word or exclamation. And this is a critique of the books, not a personal judgment on any teacher or any staff member. That's just a personal feeling. We simply have differences of opinion on our worldviews. I've been told, and again, not by Mr. Crandall, he didn't say this to me, that I should not bring my own personal beliefs when deciding on these books. That's impossible. Each one of us has personal beliefs. Each one of us has a worldview that guides and shapes our choices. I've heard over the past couple of years that the board should simply agree with the Instructional Materials Committee vote and pass on, just pass whatever they approve. However, that does not fit the process that we have as a school for deciding on which books are appropriate for students in our community. If that logic was carried out through the approval process, we would not need either the IMC or the board's input. The current process is that the staff presents the reasons for choosing the book, the IMC asks questions and approves or rejects the books, and the school board does the same. These are the checks and balances. In addition, the board is elected by the community to make decisions that it feels reflects the majority of the community as well as the needs of the students and teachers. I simply disagree with the appropriateness of these books based on what I believe the community standards are. There are other books that would meet the same standards and be less controversial. At least one list I've seen puts the books that we're considering the most controversial of the others. Again, I truly appreciate Mr. Crandall discussing this with me. He looked at the list. He told me why a couple of the books on the list wouldn't work, and I really appreciated that reasoning. It made sense to me. He also mentioned he wasn't familiar with a book or two on the list, but he would look at them. And again, I appreciate him wrestling through this with me. Having said all of this, personally, I wouldn't recommend the two books. However, in the spirit of my strong belief in parents' rights in schools and recognizing that this is a short-term book club where there are choices of books, I am willing to offer a compromise, or you might say a third option, instead of a yes or a no, and approve these books as long as the explicit nature of these books is clearly explained to parents who would need to sign off on them as an opt-in format and not an opt-out. Mr. Crandall and I discussed what that would look like, and when I showed him a draft of a one-page summary of one of the books, he graciously agreed to the draft wording. It's not final. We're looking at some wording. Thanks for listening to me. That's my thoughts. Just a note specifically for my fellow board members. When we get on our agenda to the approval of the instruction materials part of the meeting, I believe just to help maybe form your comments, I believe there needs to be 2 or maybe even 3 motions. One would be to accept the instruction material books, all the other books that we're not talking about, except set aside the Merrill Thieves and Dear Martin to talk about as a second motion. I believe the first motion is going to pass because everything else we agree on. The second motion would be to pass the 2 remaining books that we're discussing with the caveat that there's an explanation to parents, like I said, an opt-in. If this motion passes, we're done. If not, a third motion would have to be an up or down vote on the 2 books if we don't agree to the opt-in. But I think Mr. Crandall and I have talked about that, and I think it's a good option. I'm interested in hearing from the other board members regarding whether or not that requirement, as explained, would be acceptable solution. And this is a little bit out of protocol, but I don't want to put you on the spot, Mr. Crandall, but have I misrepresented anything that we talked about? I want to be fair to you. Thank you. I'm open to comments.
I just want to clarify something that you brought up that I said last time, and I don't know if everybody else on the board is aware of this, but the kids in our hallways hear the N-word every day, and it's very upsetting to them. Okay, girls are catcalled every day. Okay, and it's very upsetting to them. So me saying these things happen in the hallway is not me saying these are okay. Me saying they happen in the hallway is saying that's a problem.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Reading books about other perspectives.
And I wasn't referring to you.
I know, but I also got other comments about it. So
okay.
I just want to be really clear. Like, I don't think that's okay. I don't think it's okay to use profanity. But I think one piece of solving that, beyond just saying don't do that because I said so, is for kids to learn and a different perspective, right? So maybe a boy that reads Marrow Thieves and reads a story about a girl who's objectified and assaulted and goes through that life experience and how it affects her life after that experience. Maybe next time he thinks about catcalling a girl, he'll think twice. So that's where I'm coming at, is that, we see surveys about students, percentage of students that feel safe at school or feel respected at school, and those are low. Those are our lowest scores.
Yeah.
So this reading literature, this is not a new concept, right? Reading literature is the main point of reading literature is to read different points of view and expand your critical thinking and your perspective and empathy for other people, right? But I see it as a small piece to solving the issue we have. So that's why I'm not saying that's an excuse. Oh, we should read all these books with, using bad language. So I just want to make that clear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I watched the meeting that I missed twice. And then I had a chance to review both books. I'm not gonna fib to anyone and say that I read them cover to cover, but I definitely skimmed both on my long haul flight home last week. It was tough for me because as a mom of a 10-year-old, she's quickly approaching the age in which these books would be options for her to read. So I struggled with that for sure. I also feel very strongly that, like Steve, I want to give the choice to parents. Parental control is very important to me. And I want to trust our educators. I think I've asked a lot of community members about some of the educators that have recommended these books, Mr. Crandall being one of them. And all I have heard is positive feedback and how amazing he is. And, what probable thought he put into this choice. So I think for me, it's tough because I agree with Natalie. I think having these themes, I know you don't like that, but these overarching themes brought up and led through with a guided instructor, there's a benefit there for sure. But I don't know as a personal mom if I would feel okay with my child reading the profanity and some of these overarching themes. So I think I like your idea of having an opt-in. My ask would be who would review the one pager or whatever we put out to parents so that, because parents they're not gonna read the books from cover to cover. So who's gonna review that?
I don't know. I would suggest Mr. Crandall and I guess we had a good discussion about it the other day, and I presented some ideas to him and he agreed to a draft. And I don't know if the board would then need to approve that or not. That would be up to administration. I think I need to find out protocol on that, but I'm more than willing to sit down with Mr. Crandall and draft something that we can agree on.
Yeah, I think it's just important that we give like a very true and accurate presentation, if that's the route we go, to parents so that they know what they're opting in or opting out of.
Agreed.
Well, I think I appreciate everybody that got up and talked last week. I think it takes a lot of courage to get up and talk, to be honest. And I know that many people probably had knots getting up. I had knots to talk about it, and I speak for a living sometimes. And but I listened to some of the reasons. One of the reasons, again, and not that it was you, Natalie, but I did hear the reason is that students are already talking this way. So what is the difference if we have a book full of profanity? And I think, and the reality is that as an education system, we're trying to teach the fundamentals of language. We want to equip students to be able to communicate in a way that is intelligent, to be able to express adjectives and expressive language. I think of the German students last week and just really how well they spoke, and they spoke very intelligently. And I think it was reflective of the education around language, and so I think it goes to show is that having to say that the students are talking this way already, so we should just go ahead and allow them to read it. I don't personally, I can't get behind that as a reason. I heard that it's hard to find a book that'll engage students. And one community member said there's hundreds of books out there. I would say there's thousands of books out there that give options. I think we have an appendix for a reason. And when it clearly goes against the appendix, I think it's hard for me to even probably justify going down this other route of adding in this opt-in. I guess one of the things I worry about is we're adding in an opt-in now. Does that mean that every year when it comes time for curriculum and there's a controversial book that's submitted, are we going to do an opt-in for that book? And so my worry would be, is this become a regular thing that we do, or is this a one-time thing? And so I guess because of that reason, I think I struggle getting behind that, but I think I'm open to it. But I do appreciate everybody that shared and listened last week. One of the other reasons I heard was, that we should leave the school board should leave it up to the experts. And I think we have incredible teachers in West Valley. I know a lot of them. A lot of them are my friends, and I've known them for a long time, and I consider them experts in education. But I also know the parent is always the first and best expert, and that's really same thing as what I ran on as school board. That's why my main platform was it's the parents first. And so I see the value in the opt-in for that reason. I guess I'm still undecided on the opt-in, to be honest, but that's I did want to give some response back to those that spoke last week, because I know it does take a lot of courage to get up here and talk. So, and whether we agree or not, I'm so grateful for those that did.
I think it's a slippery slope. What's the barometer? Any book with profanity needs a waiver signed by the parent? Because a lot of classics of Mice and Men, Catcher in Rye. So what's the difference is that these are diverse books exploring diverse populations and written by diverse authors, whereas the others are standard old classics because they still have a lot of profanity in them. So are we going to go back and look at every book that's in our library? Are we going to go back and look at every book that's in our classrooms?
Yeah,
Because you guys are picking on these because they're kind of new or modern classics and more diverse. But,
Yeah, I think the reality is we can only look at what's in front of us at the moment. Nobody has the capacity to go back and look at everything.
Right, but then it's not fair and justified across the board. If you're going to do something, it needs to be, consistent, right?
Except that our responsibility is to evaluate the books that are presented to us, not the books that are in the past. If that's our responsibility, then I would love to take that on. I would love to look through books of the past.
Right.
But that's not what we're called to. What we're called to do is to curate and to really create the best curriculum that we can for our students. And so when we're looking to do that, I think that there's great options. And I want our students to have great books. And I don't think that the books that we're talking about tonight are great.
I'm just wondering what the downside would be to having what Steve proposed as an opt-in for the newer books. Like, what's the downside to that?
I mean, I would look to the teachers to weigh in on that because,
Sure.
I don't think it's our job to choose the curriculum, Joel. I think that's the teacher's job. And we should be empowering them to do that and make good decisions. It's not my job to pick the books, right?
But it's your job to approve them or
Right.
to reject them.
But also that was at the instructional materials committee that you and I both sat on, and you didn't mention it at all.
But I
So-
have in the past, and again.
Not to that group. So they didn't have a chance to have this discussion. And so we kind of took that power away from those teachers that were all on that group because they didn't get to have this discussion with us, right? So, I would defer to teachers because they're going to be the ones that have to implement this and carry it out. And
And we're the
it's
ones
a
that
new-
have to have our names attached.
right, and it's a new process, but
And these are newer books. I mean, they're definitely.
Written in 2017.
17, yeah. My other question is, I'm just new and not familiar with the IMC. How, I was here when they chose the IMC, so I understand how that was done. How many folks on the IMC actually read the materials from front to back and were there at the meeting and actually voted on it? Like, was it a true 15-0 vote? There was 15 people in the room?
15 people voted and 15 people approved. There's 8, I think there's 8 staff.
And
eight,
7 parents.
or 7 parents, yeah.
I'm familiar with that.
Yeah.
So there was 15 people in a room together, everybody read it
We
from
don't,
front
The
to
the
back.
understanding
We
is
don't know if
they're
they read it.
supposed to read it.
Okay,
A few, I mean, I know the ones that I talked to read it, but
okay.
when you were
Yeah.
personal, did you read them before?
yes,
Okay,
I read them last year.
okay, me
Before
too.
you pulled them off, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't pull anything off.
Well, you challenged them. And they
Right,
were pulled
and
off.
so then, but
Yeah.
you had just said it as a negative that I didn't speak up, but when I did
Correct.
speak up, it was also a frustration. Would you have
Well, you
preferred
didn't
me to?
speak up last year. You wrote comments before the IMC met. And then Mr. Crandall pulled the books before we had an opportunity to review them, right? So
Right,
there was no opportunity for you to speak up at the meeting last year because the books had already been
it was a
pulled.
moot point, that's correct, yeah.
So
So-
I'm playing catch up. So these books were proposed last year at the IMC. And then
Before-
there was comments by a board member.
Yeah, I voiced my concern then.
Cool. And then they were pulled out.
Before the IMC actually met
Okay.
last year.
So we've been trying to get these books into rotation for 2 years now?
Well, I don't want to speak for Mr. Crandall, but my perception was last year he got challenged on them and was like, this isn't, I don't want to
Fight this
deal with
battle
this
right now.
battle. And then this year he was like, these are actually hard. This is hard to meet all this criteria of a challenging, short, engaging book. So I actually do want these books. And so he brought it back. And at that meeting this year, nobody had any opposition or any comments that they didn't like the book or they had any concerns with the book. And then it was
15
approved.
people were there.
Yes, yes. So that's where I'm saying we are going a slippery slope because we are now subverting the IMC, right? Because they didn't have the opportunity to have this discussion. And Joel and I happened to sit on the IMC and we're at that meeting and he didn't say anything. So I'm just,
Understood.
it's just going to create conflict.
I mean, that is a tricky spot, you know, should the board members speak into it when they're talking
Well,
and
that's the point of
discussing,
us
or
being
shouldn't
there.
they? You know, yeah, I
mean-
understand. You know, I think there is value in submitting the comments before and saying, these are what were found and this is where it doesn't meet the appendix in our opinion. You know, so I think that's something we should definitely probably look at and consider for this next year. I think, Haley, you asked, you know, what is the downside to Mr. Wolcott's opinion? And I would just say the precedent. I'm worried about the precedent that it would set for
But what would be
future.
the downside of doing it every time we introduced new controversial books?
So define controversial.
I guess for me,
Goes against the.
when and when I did skim read Dear Martin specifically, there's a lot more profanity in that than there is of Mice and Men.
Yeah.
There is. I mean, I guess I
Like
could
there's,
put it in
I just brought that
ChatGPT.
up, but there's other
Yeah.
books. I mean,
But there is. So I think for me, like anything that is a little bit more out of the norm, I think that that's great because it's engaging potentially to high school students and I want them to have thought-provoking conversations. But also I want the parents to know what the kids are reading before the kids are reading it.
so maybe we leave it up to the teacher to decide this might be
This might be on the edge.
controversial and I'm going to send out this.
Yeah,
Maybe that, I don't know. But
yeah.
I don't want to
I
make
don't
that
hate that.
decision of how the process. So
Can
there's like a
we-
procedural.
Can we
I'm
let
gonna,
Mr. Crandall?
I'm gonna go out of protocol and I'm gonna ask
Yeah,
Mr.
I feel like he
Crandall
has something
to
important
speak.
say.
He's not the only teacher here either.
I
I
know,
just want to say something very simple. I think this process is already in place.
I can't hear you.
This process is already in place. We give syllabus to that detailed books that we are teaching for them. So we send it home, and when parents see a book that they don't want they have trouble with, they'll contact me, and then I will go through what the options are for their student to review. And then I work with parents. This doesn't happen a ton, but it happens, and I've always had good experience with it. So Steve and I talked about doing something very specific, but this is something that I could easily incorporate into what I already do. And we try to make it very clear to parents what we are teaching, what books we're teaching. So it's already something we do. I don't feel like this is like a new thing. It could be that you want the language a certain way and we're dealing with that. But it's not like a process that we're just introducing now. It's something we always do. So I just want to make sure that you guys understand that. All the teachers do that. We send it home to the parents. If the parent is concerned about the books, they'll look at it. They talk to us, emails or calls or whatever. Like I said, it doesn't happen a ton, but parents who are concerned will talk to me and we deal with it. And I never really have a problem with that. My parents have even told me that they've had trouble at other schools, and it was refreshing. I had one parent this year talk to me, and it was refreshing that I had stuff ready to go, and it worked out smoothly. So I don't feel like, I just want to make sure you guys know this is not like a brand new process. It's easily, I could easily incorporate it. All the English teachers are doing this already.
So reversing that and doing like an opt-in rather than an opt-out wouldn't be a huge lift on your part.
No,
Well, we already signed the syllabus, right? The parents
yeah,
signed the
But that
syllabus.
feels more like an opt-out. That feels
No,
like,
but we have to sign every syllabus.
right,
So every parent signs that they looked at that and turns it back, and the kid turns it back in.
yeah, I understand that, but I
So
guess,
it's already kind of an opt-in
But-
because they're already signing it.
okay, I hear you, but I'm also like thinking, if I'm just a busy parent and I'm working 50 hours a week or whatever, and I see 10 books or whatever the syllabus is, and I don't take the time to look at what that actually entails, I know we're obviously we don't need to do it, but I'm just wondering if that maybe needs to be like brought to light a little bit more.
So maybe in the syllabus, it's called out.
Yeah, like, hey, if you want more information on this one,
Or you can list, there's profanity in this.
yes.
Well, and that's what we talked about,
Correct.
because of some of us on here are a lot more concerned than others, and, we're trying to respectfully agree. I think that's an extra step that we can take, to allow this.
Okay.
That's just, it might not get a vote, I don't know, but I'm throwing that out there. I'm struggling with even offering it, to be frank, but I do have a strong, parents, I'm strong on parent choice, so.
I like the option 100%. I think it's a good middle ground. I think it's a good option. I think as a parent of a young child, it would make me feel better to have that opportunity to review it. Because then me being me, I could go home, read the book and decide whether or not I'm okay with my children partaking.
Okay, I don't want to stop anything. Any other discussion at the board level at this point? Okay, thank you. Now we will have public comment for anybody that wants to speak. And just realize, I don't remember all who spoke last time, but if you spoke last week, you're welcome to speak again, but understand that we all heard you and appreciated that from last time. So I would just ask, if you want to speak, please approach the podium here and then state your name. Anybody, yeah, just hop up there, get in line or whatever. I'll just introduce yourself. I'm not gonna call out names.
My name is Megan Mock, and I just wanted to come up and say thank you to the board for taking your job so seriously and being that final set of eyes on the instructional material as the process is designed to protect our kids. And so I am thankful for that you guys are working so hard at this and trying to do the right thing. I agree with the reasoning behind not adopting the books. I'm, not a fan of vulgarity, and I think the majority of the people that voted for you guys voted you for this exact purpose. You know, this is exactly why you voted in to make this final call and to protect these kids. And I think each of you, 4 of you at least, got way more than 15 votes for this purpose. Way more than the 15 people that are in the committee, reviewing material. So I'd say that far outweighs the decision of the instructional committee. So I just wanted to encourage you in that, and to know that most of the community, most of the parents voted for you guys and would appreciate this decision to not adopt these books. So, thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Heidi Mokel, and tonight I'm speaking to you as a parent, a teacher in the district, and the president of our Educators Association. I myself tend to lean conservative when it comes to my own children and what they read and watch and what they have access to. We're a home without video games, no cell phones for kids, and limited access to the internet. But as a parent, I know that board policy 2020 allows me to request alternative instructional materials. I also believe deeply in public education, in our professional educators, and the importance of students being exposed to literature that challenges them to think critically and compassionately. As a parent, I trust my children's teachers to select books that will engage students, stretch their thinking, and guide meaningful conversations. Teachers do not hand students books and walk away. We teach, we ask questions, we guide discussion. That is our job. I want to speak specifically about the book, The Marrow Thieves. When I heard concerns about this book 2 weeks ago, I decided not to rely on rumors or excerpts online. I listened to the first quarter of the audiobook with my 7th grade daughter when we were driving back and forth to softball practice in Tri-Cities. Before we started, I explained to her that the school board was considering banning this book. And let's be clear about what banning means. Removing a book from student access because some people object to its content or ideas. I told my daughter that if the material became inappropriate or objectionable, I would turn it off. Instead, what happened was something every educator and parent should value. We had thoughtful conversations. We talked about fear, survival, injustice, Indigenous history, and the importance of human dignity. We talked critically about the themes in the story. That is exactly what literature is supposed to do. As I finished the book on my own while on a drive to Seattle, I kept waiting for content that I would find objectionable so that I would agree with banning the book. It never came. What I found was rich vocabulary, character development, and a storyline that made me look forward to getting back in the car and listen to the book. My plan is this summer to read it with both of my 12 and 13-year-old together. I also have to point out something that concerns me. During the last board meeting, the word marrow was repeatedly pronounced by Mr. Heaton and Mr. Kephart as marrow. I question actually, if you had read the book, you would know the title refers to bone marrow, which is central to the story itself. That matters because discussions about literature should come from informed understanding, not assumptions or secondhand outrage. As teachers, we often use literature to help analyze behavior, motivation, and author's purpose. In my own classroom, I read the book Poppy with my students. One of the characters is rude, arrogant, and incredibly sassy. But that doesn't mean the author is encouraging students to behave that way. It gives me an opportunity to ask, why did the author create this character? What purpose does it serve? And what can we learn from it? That's what good teaching looks like. Books are not an endorsement of every action or ideas within their pages. They are tools that help students examine complex issues safely, thoughtfully, and with guidance from trained educators. If every book that contained conflict, uncomfortable moments, injustice, or flawed characters were removed from our schools, our shelves would become empty very quickly. Education is not meant to protect students from every difficult idea. It is meant to teach them how to think critically ask questions, evaluate perspectives, and grow into informed citizens. As a parent, I want that for my own children. And I want the choice to be able to decide what my children read without our teachers being questioned. As a teacher, that's what I want for my students. And as the association president, I ask this board to trust the professional educators to do the work they are trained to do. Please do not remove the Marrow Thieves from a book club option for our high school students. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else before I close public comment? Going once. Okay, public comment I will close at this point. Okay, we're moving to action items, and I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of May 26, 2026.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of May 26, 2026.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. Okay, approval of travel requests. This request is for high school softball state fast pitch tournament, and if anyone else besides me noticed, it was for May 21st, 2026. And it's because when you get to state tournaments, things happen faster than the board meets. And so we can't approve it ahead of time. So we're approving this in retrospect, and we'll maybe think of a better way to do it next year when we have so many good state people going to state. So I'll make a motion to approve that travel request in retrospect. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed by the same sign. On the approval of the child nutrition bids, there's basically milk and dairy products, 2 fresh produce, and 3 the walk-in freezer, that half of it was paid for by a grant. There's several documents here we were to look at, and I'll just make a motion to approve it all.
Could I ask Brian just a quick question?
Hang on just a second. But I'll make the motion, and then we'll have discussion, unless anybody wants to pull one and specifically out. But go ahead and ask a question.
I'll make a motion to approve it then.
Okay.
But I guess on the walk-in freezer, I know $97,000 was paid for by the grant. What was the other part coming out of what
Out of
fund?
the child nutrition budget.
Okay.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. Is there any other discussion or
What
pull
was
out?
the cost to the district then, if 97,000 was paid for by the grant?
185 minus
yeah,
97,
minus
so
97.
88,000.
That's the total, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, motion's on the table. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed by the same sign. Motion carried. Okay, approval of instructional materials. I've crafted some motions. Let's see if this works. I would make a motion, first of all, to approve the list of instructional materials as presented, setting aside the Marrow Thieves and Dear Martin for a second motion.
Second that. Do we need a second?
We don't need a second.
Okay.
Is there any discussion on that motion?
I think we need to have I don't know, I think I'd like to make a motion to approve the instructional materials as presented and approve all of them. And then I think we can move forward with your others, but the way the agenda is written and the recommendation from the IMC, I think we need to address that as it stands, as it's written, and then later, do you know what I mean?
That's fair. Yeah, so go ahead.
So I'll make a motion to approve the instructional materials in their entirety.
Okay. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign?
Aye.
Aye. Motion fails 4-1. Now, just to be respectful on the decision or the motion I made is fine.
You make your motion now,
yeah,
yeah. I just wanted us to
Okay,
follow
on the
the
record.
agenda.
I appreciate that. Approve the list of instruction materials as presented, setting aside the Marrow Thieves and Dear Martin for a second motion.
I'll make a motion to approve it
Okay.
as you.
Okay, that motion is on the table. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed with the same sign? Okay, motion passes. Motion 2.
Actually,
and-
wait,
Hmm.
that was to set aside, that was not to approve the other two?
That was to approve the, everything else except those two.
Okay, I vote against that.
Okay, so
Sorry.
four to.
I thought you were saying with your
I'm sorry. Okay.
additional approval.
Okay, I appreciate that. 4-1.
Yeah.
Motion 2 would be approve the Marrow Thieves and Dear Martin with the requirement that there is a detailed explanation of the contents of the books with an opt-in requirement for parents and guardians. So I'm going to make that motion. Does anybody need me to repeat it?
Do we need to add something about the parents getting some sort of a informatory, like,
It says, my motion says, with the requirement that there is a detailed explanation
Oh,
of the
detailed
contents of the
Perfect.
books with an opt-in requirement for parents and
Great.
guardians. So that's the motion on the table. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'm going to abstain from that vote.
Okay, so it's 2-2.
It was 2-2?
I was aye for the opt-in.
Okay. And who else voted for it?
Me.
Okay. Okay, I'll add my vote. 3-2.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so motion 2 passes 3-2. And we don't need a third motion because that's the end of that. Okay. Any items arising, topics that didn't come up before we got our agenda? Superintendent's report. Assistant super, no, it's the superintendent's.
Yeah, we have cell phone policy for next year. West Valley High School will implement updated procedures for student cell phone use at school in the 2026-27 school year. West Valley Innovation Center and West Valley Mid-Level Campus will continue with the procedures they used this year. To sum it up, at the high school level, when they walk into class, the expectation is that they put their phones up in a designated location for the duration of that class. The Innovation Center, the expectation is that their phones are put away and they can use it before school and during lunch. And then the mid-level campus devices are to be turned off and put away for the duration of the day. So that's the update on cell phones.
Okay.
Is that an update to the mid-level? I thought that was already the policy.
No,
No.
the IC and the mid-level was just, that's what they
Oh, it's
are currently
not a
doing.
change. Okay.
It was the update to the high school.
Right, okay.
Any board reports or board development? All that I'll say was fun to be at graduation once again and see all the students graduating. That's always very fun.
Huge
To,
graduating class too.
see,
Yeah,
yeah,
400.
that was really good. And I stopped by the not air show, what do you call it? At the airport the other day in the Innovation Center.
Aviation Day, yeah.
Yeah, Aviation Day. The Innovation Center had their airplane out there, and a lot of people were stopping by the booth, so that was sort of fun to see. All right, anything else? Okay, I am adjourning the meeting at 8:10.